We have a bit of an unusual situation today. I don't think we're going to need the computer, projection screen, right? Because we're going to do a lot of writing. Actually, in this whole sequence of, or this whole unit, this section P, the theory of programs, a lot of this stuff is not in the book. So you're going to have to take, and I don't have it written up. So a lot of this stuff is going to be traditional, notes on the board kind of thing. Anyway, so before we get started or continue with what we were doing before, we did have a homework assignment due today. Okay. Any questions about the homework?
I didn't like your hints.
You didn't like my. So that sounds okay. I didn't like your hints. That doesn't sound like a question. That sounds like a comment. Okay, so what did you not like about my hints?
Well, I forget what the hints were.
Oh, you forgot what they were. Do you just remember that you didn't like them?
You don't want to do them the way the hints said to.
That's what I did.
Wasn't there an easier way to do it?
Which one are you talking? Which problem?
I did them like on Friday.
Which problem are you talking about?
Like D and E.
Okay, D was.
And G, I guess.
I think D and G. I think you need an implies in the.
Yeah, that was the weird one.
In the body.
I don't think you do.
What was the read the problem for D. I don't have my book.
Oh,
all
no,
zeros
you can do that one theorem to bring the implies and make it an and in the range. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I did.
So he did some trading
It's
on it.
technically.
Oh, you did some
Well,
trading.
you did trading on mine, but yeah.
Oh, I see. So yeah, it was a for all, and then there was an implies in the body. And what you're saying is,
I put an and in the range.
you traded. You did the trading version. Well.
Well, that's how the theorem goes. You start on the left side, which has the.
Okay.
That's trading 9.4a. I did that too.
Proven.
Well, that's good.
How the implies should be then? Is it an implying another quantification?
Well, for D, for part D, I put in the body. I had B sub I equals 0 implies.
I have B sub I equals 0 implies there exists
Yeah.
an and range
Ooh.
J. Is that
Oh,
It should just imply
no.
that it's within
No.
certain-
Yes.
that's all you have to do?
Yeah.
That's easier.
You can just have it.
Yeah.
And when it says some, it has to be an exist. You can't say not for all.
Well,
Well, you can use generalized De Morgan to write it either way, to write it several different
You
ways.
have to have a not.
But whenever in English, whenever it says some, it means at least one, which is translated there exists.
If you put a not in the
which
body,
is a little different than not all
Oh,
of
for
them.
this one?
Yeah, and you have to be careful about using generalized De Morgan, because
or you can not combine. Just put a slash in that equals.
not for all isn't the same as for all not.
Yeah.
So when you do the implies, you can just say J is less than or equal to I, less than or equal to K.
Mm-hmm.
Does that have to be in parentheses?
What do you think?
I think so.
Serifs on rigid variables. Rigid values.
How would you find out?
My
Guess.
front page.
You would guess.
Apply. Off the equals and.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. You don't.
You don't need it.
Correct. All done?
Josh, was yours okay the way it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a pretty short assignment. Okay, any more questions?
Like that every day.
For the implication one, in the book it talked about how you can say if it's an element of, could you say then that I is an element of B
Yeah, I
sub
said that
J through K?
I is an element of B of J dot K.
Is that the same thing as the implies?
Whoa. Now, it sounds to me like I don't have any is an element of.
But it doesn't mean it's not right.
But I has to be in that range, right?
But hold on. The way you say I is between something is you say, I don't know, A is less than or equal to I is less than or equal to B. You don't say I, you don't say I is an element of what?
We can't say b sub I equals 0 implies that b sub I is an element of b between j and k.
Wait. See, I mean, okay, first of all, this doesn't, I don't think, if you want to say that I is in some range between A and B, you can't say I is an element of, because this is not a set.
Can you say b sub I is an
Okay.
element of b?
I'm gonna do
Okay, hold on. Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
So first thing I want to emphasize is that this is wrong. I mean, because if you want to say that I is in a range between A and B, you can't say I is an element of something, because this implies that I is an element of a set. And there's no sets here. This is a range. This is a Boolean expression. This is a Boolean expression that's either true or false. It's not a set. There's no sets here. Is everybody clear on that first? Okay, now what did you say?
So in the body I put b sub I equals 0 implies
B sub I equals 0 implies.
b sub I is an element of b sub j dot dot k.
Isn't it just I is an element of?
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, well, this is highly unusual.
In the book it's like
Yeah. Hold on. B sub I, what you're wanting is B sub I is an element of B sub.
j through k.
Well, that's highly unusual.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is highly unusual.
But correct.
But I suppose, I suppose it is mathematically correct, but it's not good.
Okay.
It's ugly. Because what should you say?
Just
That I is between J and K. So how would you say that I is between J? You'd do it like this. Yeah. This is highly unusual. Okay, so, yeah, I don't know. Don't do it like this. But, if you wanted to get picky and argue with me mathematically, I suppose you'd be correct. But
Okay.
anyway. All right, any more questions?
Wish our arguments went that smoothly.
Yeah.
You never suppose I'm correct.
Okay. Good deal. So let's continue. Now, like I said before, a lot of this material is not in the book, and so we're going to be doing lots of writing on the board. And I think where we stopped last time was we were doing specifications, and the first thing that we want to do, the first thing that we want to remember is, what is the shape of a specification? So it's the precondition with what? P. And then what goes in the statement?
Changing variable.
Whatever variable you want to change, a list, and then
Replaced by,
who knows? So, and then the post condition,
P sub P prime.
well, I think we call it Q, right?
Yeah.
But whatever letter you want to call it. So here, let's have this up here for our reference. That's the shape of a formal specification, right? Okay, so now here comes the next one. The last one, I think we did specify set x to y's value, specify set y to x's value, specify change x and y to have the same value, specify, how did we do swap x and y?
We had
We used rigid variables. Yeah. And then we also used rigid variables to set z to its own absolute value. Okay, so now comes the next one. Specify this next one is set z to the maximum of integers x and y. Set z to the maximum of integers x and y.
Okay.
So anytime we say specify, what's the first thing you write down? Left curly brace.
Do we have a precondition?
Good question. Do we have a precondition? Is there anything that we have to restrict anything to be?
No, they are integers.
Don't we have to?
Yeah, well, we started with the start of this whole thing, we said assume that everything's integers. So remember, we kind of said that. Yeah, so true, I think that true is good. There's really nothing we need to restrict the, and then gets, not equals, gets.
I already said that. I was jumping.
Oh.
Keep up.
Now here I think is where you need an implies.
What?
Can't you use max as a function?
Well,
No, but that's technically in the implementation.
well, okay, I'll tell you what. Let me go back and show you how you would do, show you how to do, but if you do that, then you have to define what max is. And it'll be the same thing. I'll show you in a minute. Let's do it without using max. If we did it without using max, how would you, here's where you'd have an implies in the postcondition, I think.
Is there an implies like if x is greater than y?
Yes. Yes. So if x is greater than or equal to y, that implies what?
It implies
X.
It implies z equals
Oh, yes.
Z equals, because this has to be a Boolean, right?
Yeah.
And what you want to set z. So now this is not gets,
Right.
this one's equals. Okay,
Is
so
it, and now is it or?
now the question is it and or?
Or. It can't.
wait,
Can't be all.
isn't it?
It has to be or because only one of them can be true.
Well, they can be equal,
It's
but.
neither.
Because if it's false.
So do you put comma? But doesn't comma mean and? How do we separate these?
Pretty sure it's or.
Oh,
'Cause
wow.
if it's and, then it's gonna be false.
What's getting
The postcondition.
true? Either X is greater than Y.
Oh, wait a minute. So now we have a difference of opinion. Some people say and, some people say or. Okay,
Because then the other statement.
okay, it's going to be something here. It's going to be something here, and what's the other one going to be?
If it's than this.
It's y is greater than x.
Yeah. So this is y is greater than or equal to x implies.
No, not equal to.
No, it can't be greater than or equal to. It has to
Why
be
not?
greater. It could. Because then you have two
So what?
statements. If they're both true.
Well, they'll be identical.
So what? Why not do it symmetric? You know?
Sure.
Why make it? But then what would this be?
Z equals y.
Equals Y.
C equals y. But now the question is this and or?
It's
And, because then
and
one
because
statement
of
will
the
be false and it'll
implication.
drop off because it's identity.
Well, no, it'll be true.
No, one of the statements will be false though, right?
No.
They can be
Well,
equal. Oh no, they'll be true.
No, the one
Exactly.
It'll be true and
If
then
false
true
implies
will drop
anything.
Yeah. So this is and.
If false implies anything, it will be true.
False implies anything is true. Right.
So
Ooh, that was a good subtle point. And you guys, it's interesting. You guys all started off thinking it was or, but then we all decided, no, it's and. Yeah? See? Think? We're learning how to think. Okay, so now what did you want to say? You wanted to say true. You wanted to say true. Z gets whatever, and then what? Z equals
Max.
no, that's fine.
x max y. Or no. Max was the up arrow, right?
Wow.
No, not divide.
Just max.
Max.
Parentheses. Write it out.
Oh, like this is a predicate.
The function, yeah. That's it.
Yeah, but that kind of begs the question because what does this mean? So here's but here, okay. So can you tell me this? Z equals. By the way, we're going to do later on. We're going to do this. This is going to be instead of doing max x y. Another way to write this is this.
Oh.
That's what you said.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. But it's a shorthand. It's abbreviation for this.
Can you do that?
You like abbreviations, right? You like this, huh?
Can you do that with sets?
No. All right. So, but the question is z equals max x y. What does that? This is a Boolean expression, right?
Returns the maximum.
So this equivales what?
There exists.
Oh.
I don't think there exists.
Equivals.
It's
What we
It's what we just put. I mean, it's x greater than or equal to y implies z. No, x greater than or equal to y implies z equals x and, oh wait, do we need parens around this?
No.
No.
I hope not.
Well, what is, the question is, now this is a Boolean. What about this compared to this?
Equivals is
And what about and? Is this lower?
Lower.
And's low, yeah.
It's all good. It's all good.
Oh, you're right, it is good, okay. And y is greater than or equal to x implies z equals, I mean, so, you know, you're taking a shortcut.
Do we get points taken off for unnecessary parens, or can we just?
Wait.
When in
Well,
doubt, you should put this.
well, I hate
Ashley's go.
bad style.
Gain has higher precedence than implies.
Yep.
So we should do that.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Yep.
Then,
So you need it around the x to x.
so you need it around this whole thing.
But implies is higher than equals, right?
We know that this and can't apply to x because x is a number.
This is higher than implies.
But could it be?
And equals,
Yeah.
oh,
We need parentheses all over the place.
no, I think we just need them here,
You just
right?
need them
That's
around,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm going to have to change my notes.
Yeah.
So you're saying that imply and is higher precedence than implies.
Yes. And you have a funny little squiggly thing at the end of that statement on the bottom.
Yeah, and is one step higher than implies.
Oh, you're right. This is not, shouldn't be there either.
Yep.
Hmm.
Wild.
But I wonder if you could disambiguate, well, let's not get into that.
Not really.
All right, now the next thing we want to look at is how to do specifications when you're dealing with arrays. So for the next few problems, let's do this. Let's suppose that our array looks something like this. We're going to call it B. Okay, so like this. And so there is a B sub 0, a B sub 1, in this case all the way up to 7, I think. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? There are 8 cells, but there are
B sub 0 to 7.
B sub 0 to 7. So in this case, n equals 8. So n will be how many cells there are, okay? And now, let's go ahead from now on so that we don't have to do a whole lot of writing. Let's use this abbreviation. And let's say that we can write it like this. X is an element of B, 0 dot dot n minus 1 means, who's next?
I think we haven't started or.
Isn't it that there exists
There exists
an I?
an I, range,
Yeah, 0 to n.
0,
It's less than.
less than or equal, less than?
Yeah.
Less than or equal to I,
Less than n.
less than n, body, we've done this before. Do you remember?
X equals
X equals,
Yeah.
right, okay?
on our homework if we said that it went to less than or equal to n minus 1. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, either way. All right, so here comes the next one. With this in mind for the B and this using this abbreviation, specify quote, set I to the index of X assuming X is in B. Set I, to the index of B, assuming x is in B.
So,
Wait, the index of x.
would the precondition be that X is in B?
Yeah. So the precondition would
It
be,
should be the index of x, assuming
No.
x is in B. You count the index of an array,
yes.
of the whole array. What's the index of the whole array?
Oh, sorry. Yes. To the index of x. Wait, set I to the index of x.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your notes are all over the place.
No, my notes were right.
Okay.
I misread my notes this time.
You're all over the place.
Yeah.
Squiggly.
So, yeah, squiggly.
True.
No.
Not true. No, we have to.
False.
X is an element of B.
Oh, we need a rich variable.
No. Now who's all over the place? Now who's all over the place?
We need to use that quantification.
Touche.
Yeah, but we can use the abbreviation. So what do we say?
X is an element of B sub 0 through.
X is an element of B, 0 dot dot n minus 1.
Oh, I thought we were assuming that. That's why.
Well, but whenever you say assuming that, that's the whole point of a
I
precondition.
think if it was outside of the quotes, you'd be okay.
Are you with me?
Josh?
Oh, yeah.
But it's in the quotes, so it's like part of the specification.
Right.
So, like,
But
if
if it
it
was,
says assuming
yeah, if the
I,
quotes
you
are
said
outside,
that
and
in
it
index
says
of
assume it's in, then you
Do
would.
this by assuming this.
So is it?
No, I mean, the precondition are the assumptions that you make in order for...
The precondition has to be
No,
true in order
it's
for
not
X
the
to be
inductive
equal.
hypothesis. This is not proof by mathematical induction.
Pretty sure, but it seems like it.
Okay, and now what?
X,
Well, it says set I, right? So I gets question mark. And now what must be the case for the postcondition?
That I is equal to B sub x.
No.
What? Say it.
How do you get the index of that number?
Index.
Well, you don't. Okay, let me give you a hint. Let me tell you why you're having a problem. The reason you're having it's a little tricky here is that you want to say I equals something.
No, I gets X.
No. I gets the index of X, which is.
No. Well, I is going to be changed, but hold on. But the point is over here on this side, you don't have to say I equals anything. You just have to make a statement that involves I that is true.
So I is in there right now.
I is not elephant.
What?
No.
I has the index of x.
You can't say has the. What formal expression do you write down that says that?
Can we do a range?
Well, what do you know? What do you know that I? What do you know? What do you know about the range of
How
I?
about
We can
B
do
sub
zero
I
is
equals
less
X?
Zero, because I
B
is
sub
less
I equals
is less than n. So I think the first thing to do is to say, okay, say where I is. Give the range for I. Okay, so 0 less than or equal to I less than n. Okay, but if we just closed it off here, that wouldn't be correct
And
because I could be any one of those things in there, and it wouldn't be necessary.
Where X.
and B sub I equals X.
Yes.
What if there's two values? What if there's two values of x in there?
Now that is a really good question. What if there's two values of x in that range,
Why do you
and is all? Okay, hold on.
Why do you need the left part?
Yeah, I agree. Why do
you
we
don't
need the left part?
Because otherwise, if
'Cause we've already
I
assumed-
wasn't in there, then you couldn't do b sub I anyway.
I is the
Well,
and we're assuming X.
no, because what if there's some extraneous,
There is no extraneous
Well-
shenanigans. Regardless.
No. I has to be
If I is
between.
not- If I is not in between there, then you can't do b sub I anyway.
Well, the array could be larger than.
But
It doesn't matter.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, programmatically.
No, that's programmatically. It's still redundant.
Well,
You know that's true.
just go with me on this.
Josh.
All right.
But now, wait, someone was making a point. another
I think
point.
you were.
You
Oh.
were about to make.
I was about to make a point. Yeah, you're right. I was about to make a point, and I don't remember what it was.
2x.
Oh, that's what it was. That was, oh yeah. So you say, what if the same value is there more than once? Then, hold on, then this does not specify which one it is all it has to be is one of them.
Yeah, because our
So depending on how you implement it, whatever.
mission was just to find one of them.
Are you with me?
Yeah, I'll buy that.
Okay. Actually, that's going to be the second example from now. We're going to do it if there's more than one. And we'll have it set it to the first one. Okay? So now the next one is specify, quote, set I to the index of x if it is in B, and n if it is not. So set I to the index of x if it is in B. If x is in B, and to n if it is not. Period, end quote.
Range true. Not range,
Yeah, you know what?
but preconditions true.
Yeah, precondition, you could say precondition is true. Typically the way we do this is we specify what n has to be now. So we say, now here's what we're going to do. We're going to do 0 less than or equal to n. In other words, n greater than or equal to 0. And by the way, this explicitly allows the,
Why does it have to be greater than or equal to 0?
well, this explicitly allows the B array to have no elements. Because if n is 0,
But what if n's negative 53?
well, we're not going to allow that. That's meaningless.
What if n is 0, there's no...
No, because all arrays start at 0.
Yeah, but
So we are not going to allow that. That's what this is not going to allow.
Is n an array?
that's
No. Here, n is this. It's how many. So it's how many elements. So we are going to allow there to be 0 elements.
Alright, I was
So you can't
I thought
have
you were
less
just
than
making
0.
You can't have less than 0 elements, but you can have 0. This is the boundary case. Is everybody clear on this?
There'd be nothing in it, right?
That means that there's nothing. That
so
means.
you don't even, do you even need that statement then?
Well,
It's redundant.
well.
That's why he said it could be
What I'm saying is we're being more explicit now with our assumptions. So 0 less than we are explicitly stating that the array can be empty, the empty array. There can be 0 elements. Okay, and now what goes here?
I get something.
I gets something, and now what goes here? Now.
Lies and shenanigans.
B sub I. Wait. If x is in B, then B sub I equals x.
Parentheses.
Yeah, I think we need. Parentheses. I think you do.
Less than
Equal to
I.
0, less than or equal to I,
And
less than n. Very good. Very good so far. Okay, hold on. But if this is the case,
And
no, I don't think implies.
and
implies.
No, this does not implies.
No, this is if x is in
and
and.
It's the other way around. I mean, you'd be implying. And what?
x is in.
X,
An element of.
well, no, that's not specific enough.
X.
You don't like x as an element of B.
No?
So,
Because which one is it?
isn't it x equal to b sub I?
Yes.
I just said that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Multiple people did.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That was the first.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This happens. You guys, this happens to me all the time. So I apologize in advance. It's going to happen again. For some reason, I have a hard time hearing.
Why is it n not implied?
Yeah, that is a good question.
Just because I is between 0 and that doesn't make x equal b sub I.
We're looking at an or right now, aren't we?
We are. We are looking at an or right now.
Or else.
Well, it's the mirror of this.
I
Or what?
N.
Yeah, or
I equals n.
I equals n and
X equals b sub.
nada.
I
Nope.
mean n equals b sub I.
No.
How about we're done?
No.
How's it not n?
What do we have to say when it,
Oh,
what,
n to n. Oh, I equals n. Well,
No. No, read the specification again.
Can we just
And to n what?
So it's x is not equal to b sub I.
and x is not equal to b sub I.
Mm,
Not.
x, because how can be I? There is no I n. And here n is 8. There is no b sub.
That does
I
not
equals n
exist.
and I equals n.
This is dumb.
And I is not between 0 and
Can
n.
you say it?
No, I equals n and what? When is this? When is this set to I? When does I equal n in the end?
If it's not in there.
Can we just make,
Okay, so how do you say that?
can we just make an
No, hold on. She's right. You've almost got it. Say it. So how do you say
X is not
that?
an element then.
Yes. So how do you say that? I'm sorry. I told you it would happen again.
Twice.
I'm sorry. X is not an element of b sub
Give someone
what?
else a chance to go.
B sub what?
0 to n.
0 dot dot n minus 1.
Wow, dude.
I know. I don't know why that happens. That happens all the
Is
time.
there a formal
I'm just
exclusive
excited.
or?
It's okay.
There is a formal exclusive or.
Can we just use that?
It's that.
Really?
Can we
Yeah.
just use that?
Well, we don't. I mean, we do this a lot in computer organization. If you take the computer organization class and you do the hardware, there's actually an exclusive OR circuit that is very common, and algebraically, that's the symbol for exclusive OR.
Why does the no imply? I just don't get that.
Well, you might be able to write this
You
with
can
an
write it with-
implies. Yeah, there's more than one way to write it, I guess.
You could
Okay,
probably-
now let's do the if there's multiples. You said what if it happens more than once? So now this is going to be tricky. Specify set I to the index of the first occurrence of x in B and to n if it is not. And to n if it is not. Now this one's kind of hard. To the first occurrence, okay? Okay, so now, because if it, but if it's not in there, then set it to n.
Same, but
So we use
Yes,
the second part.
so 0 less than or equal to n,
I is
and then
equal to n.
I gets whatever. Now, can you, this one is kind of tricky. Can you,
Can we just write I equals n and x is not an element of blah 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 real quick? It would be that.
say, I mean, it's going to be this, right?
Would it?
Well, I mean, isn't it going to start with this? Well, no, not really, because now, what is our, let me just get it started out. It's going to be 0 less than or equal to I, now less than or equal to n, right?
It can't be equal
why is
to
it
n.
equal to n?
Well, because to n if it is not.
So I can be n.
So now we're going to do this slightly differently, yeah. So now this is going to be 0 less than or equal to I, less than or equal to n, and to n if it is not. But now here's my question. Now that we see that 0 is less than or equal to I is less than or equal to n, how do we write down that I is the index of the first occurrence of x in B? So if sub, okay, let me ask you this. If sub 5 is the first occurrence of x in B, then how do we say that it's not before that? Suppose I is 5, and that's the first, and suppose it occurs there, it occurs at 5 and at 7.
X is not
And
an
5
element of 0 through 5.
Yeah, so in general,
X is not an
Oh.
element
Be-
of 0 through I.
yes, very good. So and x is not an element of B sub what?
Okay. B sub 0.
0 I minus 1.
0 dot dot I minus 1. Okay.
Close parentheses.
Close parentheses. Yeah, I forgot to open.
Close little squiggly thing.
No, yeah.
No. Actually, I don't think we need this.
Yeah, you don't need
No, I don't think we do.
That's it, right?
And so now we need a parentheses.
We still need,
So now what are the two things? Either what or what?
we still need B sub I equals X.
Yeah. So either x equals B sub I or what?
I equals M.
Yes. Very good. I equals n.
How come it's just I equals n? Because it's not
Well, it can't be x equals B sub n.
Because n is an NB. N is the number of things that are NB.
Yeah, see here, n equals 8. N equals 8 up to B sub 7, right? Okay. Now here, is everybody good? Okay, now here's another one. These are all tricky. Specify, quote, if, now we're going to have a Boolean variable. Okay. So if x is in B, set Boolean C to true. Set Boolean C to true, and I to the index of B. And I to the index
X.
of B.
No.
Otherwise,
No, wait. Stop.
Of X.
You can't have
to the index
Same
of,
problem again.
oh, my notes are wrong here then.
the index of X.
If x is in B, set Boolean C to true and I to the index of x in B.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, of x. I'm going to have to remember to change my notes. But otherwise, set C to what?
False.
To false. Right?
Sick.
Okay.
So now, how would you specify that?
True.
true.
Well, let's do this.
Okay.
Even though we don't have to set to n.
Even though we don't care what N is?
Now what's going to go, that's the same as these.
C.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 'cause
We got to change I and C. So we're specifying two things here.
Well, there's a possibility that we don't change I.
There is a possibility, but there also is a possibility that we do. So if C is true, then I has meaning. If C is false, then I is undefined.
Okay.
But still, under some circumstances, I will be
We need it.
changed. Okay? So now what? So now tell me, what's the first thing? First, how do we change C?
If X is in B,
Then what?
well, that's what we have
X
to
is
write.
an element of B implies.
If X is an element of B.
It implies-
X implies C
This is,
is true.
It's just
yeah, but then also what?
And
If it's not in B, then it's what?
Set C to false.
Yeah, well, yeah, but so can you combine those into just one expression?
Yeah.
C is a Boolean value, right? It's either true.
Zero is less than I, less than or equal to I is less than or equal to N.
No, well, no.
So we did combine.
What I'm saying is you can combine these into one
Equal to,
equivals.
or yeah.
C equivals. All right, so this is a Boolean.
X is an element of B.
There you have it. X is an element of B what? 0 dot dot n minus 1, right?
Then you just change I.
Well, now what about I? Okay, but now what? And now what?
It's the same thing, right?
Well, it depends. Now what did we?
B.
Oh, hold on. What did we say about I?
How about C implies?
Yeah. We only have to specify I depending on whether C is true or false. So we can say C implies, and C implies what?
B sub I equals X.
Yes. X equals B sub
Good work, guys.
I. All right. Now, this has been a really good exercise. Okay, now,
This is not going to be on the test.
oh, you better believe it. You know, these make perfect, you know, the first part of the exam, you know, the A, B, C, D, E.
You just go straight
That's
to the
perfect.
questions, right? So if we just wrote it right.
Okay, now, for your homework assignment for next Thursday, there's a few more concepts. Appropriate preconditions. Now, first of all, if the problem is dealing with the sum of some elements in an array, you know, if you want to add the sum of the elements, blah blah blah, then the question is, does it make sense? Does it make sense to have the sum of elements of an array that doesn't have any elements in it? In other words, does it make sense to have the sum of an empty array? The sum of the elements of an empty array. Does that make sense?
It doesn't,
Why not?
because there aren't any numbers to sum.
I know, but if there aren't any numbers to sum, what is the sum?
No,
Yeah.
I'm fine.
No, it is zero. It's empty range.
Damn it.
Are you with me on this?
Wait, shouldn't it be undefined though?
No. Because
Because if you're adding, oh, you're adding.
No, because actually look at it this way. In a program, suppose you're writing a program and you're adding stuff to an array and you're keeping track of the sum. Wouldn't you initialize the sum to 0 and start with an empty array? And then as you added stuff to it, are you with me? That's the starting point. Okay, so here, the sum. So the first point is this, sum. It makes sense to have the sum of an empty range. It makes sense to have the sum of an empty range. Yeah, and you can think of it as the empty range rule, okay? So, here. So, for the sum of b j dot dot k minus 1. So, for the sum of b j dot dot k minus 1. What should the precondition include?
J equals k plus 1?
It's going to be less than, or it's going to involve an inequality.
J is less than K.
J is greater than.
See, look, suppose that you're talking about so suppose this is J and this is K, right? How many elements are we summing if it's from J to K minus 1? We're summing this one plus this one, right? Okay, so we're summing 2 elements. On the other hand, if K is here, how many elements are we summing? We're summing 1 element. Are you with me?
Yeah.
On the other hand, if K is
J
here,
is less than or equal to k.
if K is here, how many elements are we summing?
0.
0. And that makes sense. Okay, now it doesn't make sense to have K here
So it's negative 1.
because that would be a negative number of elements. So what should this include?
J is equal to K.
J is less than or equal to k.
j is less than or equal to k. Now, does everybody see how that worked? All right. Now, what about max on the other hand? Because I said on the other hand. You know it's not going to be the same. Okay. Now, let me ask you this. Suppose that the problem is to find the maximum
You need at
of the
least
element.
2.
Well, does it make sense to have 1?
Yeah, I guess it does.
But does it make sense to have 0?
No.
It doesn't make sense to have 0 because there is no max of nothing. So you have to have at least one element to have the max, to have it be the max. Are you with me? So for max, if you have a problem where you're trying to find the max or specify the max, there is no max in an empty range. That's the point. There is no max in an empty range. Okay? So for the maximum element, in B j dot dot k minus 1, in B j dot dot k minus 1, the precondition should include what?
J is less than K.
Yes. And I heard you this time. The precondition should include J is less than K, right? Now, does everybody see why that is? As opposed to this one. When you're dealing with sums, when you're dealing with max, then it should be like this. Okay? And one more tip, and that is counting. Now, suppose this is our B array. And the numbers in here are like 12, 93, 0, 14, 6, 0, 0, 21. All right? And so here's our B array, and this is sub 0, and this is sub 7. Okay? And here n equals 8. The question is, how many zeros are in here?
3.
Right. How did you know that? How many zeros are in B 0 dot dot 7? Now, but how would you write the expression for that? How would you write the formal expression for that? What equals 3? It's a quantified expression. Now, what do you think about this? How are you going to count?
The summation or whatever. We do sum over I.
It is going to be a sum over I. And what's going to be the range I?
B sub I is 0.
No. I is going to go from what? 0 to 7. Okay, so that's, and let's suppose it's n. Let's do it in general. So this would be range 0 less than or equal to I less than n. I think we might have done this before. I think we remember doing this before.
B sub I equals 0 implies, no.
Now, if you had something imply something, that would be a Boolean, and you would be adding Booleans. So you're not adding Booleans.
B sub I is 0, no, you can add those.
Yeah, you can't say if you had B sub I equals 0, that wouldn't be right because this is a Boolean expression and you can't add true and false. Are you with me? Does everybody see what the types?
I think we need more in the range.
Good.
Oh, actually, maybe we do need more in the range. Yeah.
Wait, could we do it without more in the range?
And
No, I
I
think,
don't think it's possible.
and, hold on,
B sub I equals 0.
and B sub I equals 0.
I.
And body I, Okay, now here.
Wait, is it-
Hold on. If this were body I, then what would we would be adding? 0, 1. We'd be adding 2 plus
counting them?
Yeah, body
5 plus 6. We'd be adding 2 plus 5 plus 6, and that would be, so the 13. That would be 13, not 3.
We're just counting them? Okay.
We're counting.
One.
Ah!
Uno,
Uno.
I.
And that equals 3. Because we're counting 1 plus 1 plus 1. So that's another tip on how to count how many things are, all right? You sum over the range, and this is the condition of the things that you're adding. How about if you wanted to add all the even, find out how many even integers, or how many even ones, then what would it be? Same thing would be and, these,
Your same kind of concept in the
but it would be what? And
it's even.
even dot b sub I, body 1.
Oh, so we can use the function even, but we can't
Well,
use max.
okay. So this is a good place to stop. See you next time.